Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at a stack of source material that, well, it absolutely refuses to see money as this neutral, innocent thing.
No.
We are tearing up the standard financial script because the core idea we're diving into is, frankly, deeply provocative.
Yeah.
Money isn't a tool. It's a weapon.
It's pure power, designed for control.
And that's the mission today, right?
That's the mission, precisely. We're stepping way outside the world of, budgeting and 401ks to explore what is basically a strategic, almost Machiavellian blueprint for using capital.
A blueprint, I like that.
Yeah, and this framework argues that the powerful don't just accumulate money, they weaponize it strategically, and they do it completely free of emotional or moral baggage.
So the goal isn't just to be wealthy.
No. The goal is to bend decisions, influence outcomes, and ultimately to become, and I'm quoting here, untouchable in a world built on illusions.
Untouchable in a world built on illusions. Wow, that's the whole ballgame right there. So if we accept that, what's the fundamental difference in how the powerful see money versus, well, everyone else?
For most people, money is a prize. It's a buffer, maybe a way to buy comfort.
Sure.
But for the powerful, it's the purest expression of modern power. And that's because of what it controls, not just what it can buy.
What it controls.
It controls time, it controls access, it controls narratives. It even controls the structures other people have to operate inside of. It's just leverage disguised as currency.
And until you see that leverage is the actual product, you're playing the wrong game.
You're playing the wrong game completely.
Okay, let's unpack this blueprint step by step. And our sources say we absolutely have to start inside the mind. This isn't about markets yet.
No, not at all. It's about internal transformation. Because the first and most brutal principle is that money is psychological warfare.
Entirely psychological.
Absolutely. You can master every spreadsheet in the world, but if you haven't mastered your own mind, the money will master you. The powerful get that money is all about human emotions.
You mean fear, desire?
The fear of losing it, the frantic desire for status, the raw survival instinct, and, of course, that paralyzing envy of others.
So the average person loses not because they aren't smart, but because they have what the sources call emotional leakage. They're bleeding emotions all over their financial decisions.
Exactly. Emotional leakage makes you predictable. I mean, think about the average reaction to a market downturn.
Panic, pure fear.
Immediate crippling fear, or the reaction to a big win, reckless euphoria. When you feel fear spending, or shame when investing, or even guilt when you win, you're just broadcasting weakness.
And as the sources connect back to Machiavelli, if someone can predict you, someone can control you.
That's it. And that ties directly into this idea of necessity.
Right. Machiavelli's observation that men are driven by necessity, not by choice.
And nothing creates necessity faster than money or the lack of it. If I can read your emotional needs, your fears, your desires, then I can control your necessity.
And that's the trap.
That is the trap. So the very first stage of weaponization is all internal. It's about achieving emotional silence.
Emotional silence. What does that actually mean?
It's not just about being quiet. It's about eliminating your emotional tells. The powerful have decoupled their self-worth, their whole identity from their balance sheet.
So they don't fear loss or worship gain in the same way.
Not at all. It makes them unreadable. And in this game, the unreadable player is holding all the cards.
This really does sound like a fundamental character transformation. Which brings us to this split. This divergence in how the weak versus the strong man with money acts.
It's a profound difference in how they apply it. The sources are very clear on this. Weakness is always expensive, it costs you leverage, and it costs you respect.
So a weak man with money, what does he buy?
He buys comfort, he buys validation through status symbols, he buys illusions. Basically, he spends to escape his life, to fill some internal void.
How about display?
Display and temporary reassurance, yeah.
Okay, so what about the strong man? The one who's won that internal battle.
He spends to sharpen his life. He buys leverage, which just means control over situations. He buys silence by getting rid of external stressors and dependencies.
He buys information.
He buys information, which is always superior to capital. And he buys positioning. The money is deployed surgically to increase his sovereignty, his freedom.
It demands a complete detachment from that herd idea that money is comfort or identity.
For him, money is a resource. It's a tool to be deployed, not an identity to be worn.
That makes the internal shift incredibly clear. Okay, so now let's take that detached capital and put it to work. We're moving from self-mastery to market strategy.
Right.
And if money is a vehicle, the second major layer of this blueprint suggests the true destination isn't wealth, It's positioning.
Positioning is everything. You have to think of the powerful not as like opportunistic hunters chasing deals.
Yeah.
No, think of them as architects of a system. The source uses this great analogy of a king on a battlefield. He's not personally swinging a sword.
Right, he's directing things from the back.
Exactly. Every soldier's effort, every resource, it all flows towards him without resistance. Why? Because of the structure he commands. The powerful use money to literally design gravity.
Designing gravity, I love that phrase. So instead of chasing opportunity, they create the system where the opportunity has to come to them.
That's it. Can I give an example?
Please.
Okay, the average person tries to maximize their income by chasing a higher salary, maybe a better investment. The strategic mind uses capital to acquire control over the underlying structure,
The platform, the distribution channel.
the necessary real estate, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If you control the one component that everyone else must rely on to succeed, you don't need to chase. They are structurally required to deliver their labor, their time, their revenue to you. The money builds inescapable architecture.
And I'm guessing that architecture is reinforced by the most critical weapon of all, narrative.
The story.
The sources claim the strongest weapon isn't the gold, but the story people believe about the gold.
And that's where the illusions come in. Value, they argue, is just an illusion repeated loudly enough to become truth. Currency is trust printed on paper at the end of the day.
So weaponizing money means shaping the market's narrative, controlling how others see what's necessary, what they should aspire to.
Yes. And that is how you generate influence. The source says, when you control belief, you control behavior, you control outcomes, you control reality.
We see this with the strategic use of appearance, don't we? It's not about vanity.
Not at all. It's perception management. Because people do not obey reality, they obey perception. If your appearance telegraphs unlimited resources and authority, the market it reacts differently to you.
If the market believes you're inevitable, they'll invest in your inevitability.
They will adjust their behavior proactively. And this all ties directly into understanding what the sources call power flow. The powerful aren't buying status objects, they're buying control over systems and flows.
How do you separate buying an object from buying an authority flow?
Okay, imagine two people each spend $1 million. The average man buys a big, flashy sports car, a temporary flash of status.
Right. Highly visible.
The powerful man uses that same million to buy, say, a crucial access road, or a controlling stake in a small regulatory consultancy, or even a specific piece of software that 100 other businesses depend on.
The car depreciates. The access road.
The access road grants permanent authority over movement. The stake grants control over information. That spending is a deliberate sacrifice.
Let's focus on that word, sacrifice. Money spent is a temporary loss for permanent power.
Every single dollar is a soldier being deployed. It's not spent to indulge an ego or decorate a weakness. It's deployed to seize territory, capture a strategic choke point, or enforce the narrative you've built.
So the goal is always that the returning dollar brings back more soldiers.
More soldiers. Meaning greater influence, greater leverage, or a tighter structural dependence from other people.
Which brings us to the apex of control. This seems to rely on manipulating the two core human drivers, fear and desire. Let's start with fear. The source material makes a very bold claim about it.
The claim is that fear is the most profitable currency.
Why?
Because fear makes people predictable. And predictable people are easy to control. Money doesn't just use existing fear, it amplifies uncertainty. Think about the paralyzing fear of losing access or your reputation or your savings if you cross the wrong system.
So the powerful use their financial position to project uncertainty onto others, which creates obedience. And it's the modern version of Machiavelli. It is better to be financially feared than socially adored.
The fear of financial ruin or even just professional uncertainty, it's often more potent than the fear of physical harm. It creates immediate leverage.
And on the other side of that coin, you have desire.
Right. The desire for status, for belonging, for identity that keeps people chasing the metrics that the architects of the system have established.
They're competing for narrative space inside people's minds.
Yeah.
Constantly shaping what value looks like.
Exactly. If the powerful can convince everyone that acquiring certain things is the measure of success, they keep people running on their treadmills, chasing goals that are structurally beneficial to the architect.
And this leads to the ultimate control mechanism, engineering dependence.
Yes.
Tell us more about dependence, because this sounds like the long-term end game.
It is the ultimate weapon.
Yeah.
Weaponized money builds systems for longevity, not for short-term gain. Systems where others must come to you, must rely on you, and just cannot advance without accessing what you control.
At that point, money isn't currency anymore.
It becomes gravity.
The cost of losing access is simply too high. So a dependent person will often sacrifice their own long-term interests before they challenge the system that provides their immediate needs.
Precisely. The powerful build the necessary infrastructure, the platforms, the networks, the regulatory access, so they're operating as the unassailable architecture,
Right.
not just another participant. You're forced to rely on their system because the alternatives are either too expensive or they just don't exist.
And as this structural power solidifies, the powerful adopt two final disciplines that seem so counterintuitive to the flashy wealth we see in pop culture: invisibility and withholding.
Invisibility is vital. The most powerful money is the money nobody sees or can accurately measure.
Why is that?
Hidden wealth creates mystery, and mystery breeds speculation, fear, and respect. If your resources are invisible, people can't see your limits. They can't predict your breaking point.
The principle being, if they cannot see your limits, they assume you have none.
You got it. Flaunting wealth, by this logic, is just defining the upper boundary of your power. It's a weakness.
And tied to that invisibility is the discipline of withholding, of silence.
Yes. The powerful move in silence is they don't overshare and they absolutely not explain their decisions.
Explanation is weakness.
Explanation is weakness, it's exposure. When you explain your rationale, you're justifying yourself. Power, if it's wielded properly, doesn't justify. It just exists, and others are forced to adjust around its reality. Withholding information creates a mystique that enhances perceived control.
This cumulative effect, the detachment, the structural positioning, engineering dependence, the silence, it all leads to the final form of control: inevitability.
Inevitability is self-replicating power. It's the point where money is just. It's following discipline and clarity. It's expanding your reach automatically through the efforts and fears and desires of everyone else caught in your system.
So the ultimate power isn't even having to display the money.
No, it's being able to alter the world with quiet decisions without anyone even realizing capital was the weapon you used. True power, as the sources conclude, is quiet, it's pervasive, it's inescapable, it just feels like gravity.
We've covered the whole blueprint, from the internal psychological battlefield to building these external systems of dependence. And it all seems to circle back to where we started. Before you can weaponize capital, the battle has to be won over one thing.
Over yourself. The transformation is, at its core, about domination over your own impulses, your emotions, your ego. The internal war is the prerequisite. Your detachment, your patience, your clarity. Those are weapons far sharper than any steel.
So the ultimate synthesis here is that sovereignty, not status, is the goal. You have to stop chasing money and start building the mind that money obeys.
That's the entire lesson. Money buys leverage, it reviews the strength of your internal discipline, and it provides silence. And that's the most invaluable form of protection and influence there is.
When you no longer need validation or status.
Then money becomes pure strategic influence.
And that leaves us with a final, provocative thought for you to chew on long after this deep dive is over. If the powerful win by controlling the structural environments others depend on for their survival and their success, the critical question for you to analyze tonight is this: identify the key structural system, whether it's a platform, a financial institution, an industry standard built by money, that you are functionally dependent on right now.
Understanding your dependencies is the first step toward reclaiming your own sovereignty.
We've given you the blueprint. The analysis is yours. We'll see you next time on the Deep Dive.